From the Bay Area's local news station, we begin now with breaking news.
We have determined that this device was, in fact, a legitimate device.
Breaking news tonight at 5. 2 mail bombs have been intercepted in California, targeting these two individuals.
Yeah, Democratic donor Tom Steyer was found in a Burlingame post office.
Here's KRON4.
Yeah.
Live in New York tonight, I'm KRON4. Now back to you.
Thank you, Karen. And we have team coverage of this story as a package was sent here in the Bay Area. Dan Kerman is at the San Francisco Police firing range at SFO, covering what's being done with the explosive.
Teresa Stasio is in the San Francisco neighborhood where Tom Steyer lives. But first, we get to KRON4's Dan Thorne, who was in Burlingame at the post office where that package was found. Dan?
Grant, it's a much quieter scene here as the yellow tape is no longer roping off the post office along Rollins Road in Burlingame. However, the post office was closed for much of the day today after that discovery of a mysterious package here. Workers here at the post office were forced to evacuate from the building, and they had to patiently wait in the parking lot even after that package was removed. U.S. Postal Police inspectors and other investigators have been on the scene today, including the San Francisco office of the FBI, having their explosive techs on scene after receiving reports this morning. Their top priority has been safety. And as you mentioned, the package that was intercepted at the post office was addressed to billionaire and Democratic fundraiser Tom Steyer, who has been a harsh critic of President Trump. Steyer has been going as far as calling for the president to be impeached. Well, one of the big questions for investigators is if there's any more of these packages out there. Of course, we will keep you updated on that. That is the very latest live here at the post office in Burlingame along Rollins Road. Dan Thorne, KRON4 News.
And the suspicious package, it was taken from Burlingame to a remote site at SFO.
And KRON4's Dan Kerman is at the San Francisco Police Department's SFO firing range with that part of the story. Dan?
That's right. The SFPD does have a firing range, and it's here at SFO right here on North Access Road. This is a pretty remote area, and this is where the FBI decided to take that suspicious package. The FBI arrived at the San Francisco Police Department's firing range at SFO around noon with the suspicious package. You see it here sitting on the ground. The firing range was chosen due to its close proximity to Burlingame and due to its isolated location. By 1:15, the FBI says the device was made safe, and by 1:45, it was loaded back onto an FBI vehicle, and a caravan of officers left the firing range. The package will now go to the FBI lab in Quantico for forensic testing. Now, as far as specifics as to what was in this package, what it looked like, if the makeup of this package is similar to the other ones, the FBI is not giving us specifics, at least not the local FBI here in San Francisco. Live at SFO, Dan Kerman, KRON4 News.
Thank you, Dan. Tom Steyer is a well-known philanthropist here in San Francisco. He's also known for his very vocal criticism of President Trump.
In fact, he had recently developed an advertisement that was set to be released next week, taking on the president. KRON4's Teresa Stasio joins us live from San Francisco with more on this part of the story. Teresa?
Well, Tom Steyer is certainly well known in this Pack Heights neighborhood, and now we are hearing from Mr. Steyer. He just spoke with our affiliate with CNN. Let's listen in to what he has to say, because he is certainly putting the blame on all this on President Trump.
I believe that our president, the reason that we have an impeachment petition with more than 6 million signatories is because we believe that Mr. Trump is reckless, dangerous, and lawless. And if you look, in fact, at where this gentleman has been sending his bombs, that it reflects the kind of violent rhetoric that we've heard. It reflects the attacks on the press, which have been consistent.
Now, KRON4 News has obtained a copy of the advertisement defending democracy. Now, through a spokesperson, Steyer said, and through his two groups, including Need to Impeach, has decided to release the ad tonight in light of the reported package sent to him. The ad was put together to counter criticism against he and other Democrats, whom Steyer says that have been called an angry mob. The ad shows, quote, that we are not going to back down from our attempts to protect democracy. In a statement sent to KRON4 News, Steyer said that we are seeing a systematic attack on our democracy and a rule of law that extends much further than just that isolated terrace in Florida. We're going to hear much more from Mr. Steyer a little bit later on. Here in Pack Heights, Teresa Stasio, KRON4 News.
Thank you, Teresa. A post office in South Sacramento, that's where another suspicious package was intercepted today. This one addressed to California's U.S. Senator Kamala Harris. The FBI, sheriff's deputies, postal inspectors, they've been, all of them have been at that Sacramento post office. It is in the South Parkway neighborhood. A worker noticed this morning that a package looked like the others that are part of a national investigation. The facility was evacuated and closed. The package addressed to Senator Harris again, and the deputies were going door to door in that neighborhood, telling people to stay inside. A robot was used to go in and out of the postal facilities. No injuries. This afternoon in a news briefing, the FBI talked about what happened.
I will confirm that the package was addressed to Senator Harris here in Sacramento, at a Sacramento address. And we do believe that the package is related to the nationwide investigation. So once now that we've rendered it safe, and now we will be analyzing the actual device itself, the package itself, we'll be able then to determine what kind of condition it was in.
Senator Harris not really addressing it directly, but she released a statement saying in part, at this moment, it is incumbent upon leaders across the political spectrum to take seriously the power they hold. It is the responsibility of our leaders to use their roles as public figures to elevate our discourse and bring people together.
Thank you, Lawrence. Still to come tonight, a new obstacle for the thousands of Central American migrants making that slow journey north to the U.S. We take a look at how the Trump administration is responding today as they get closer to the border.
And as we continue to follow our breaking news, we're going to get reaction from Senator Dianne Feinstein to those latest mail bombs discovered. Continuing our coverage of our breaking news tonight, Senator Dianne Feinstein, she minced no words today when asked to comment on the mail bomb threats directed at critics of the Trump administration.
As KRON4's Rob Flattabo reports now, Feinstein made these remarks as she stumped for votes among farm workers in Watsonville.
There's a proverb. In Watsonville, Rob Flattabo, KRON4 News.
And coming up at 5:30, we'll have a live report from Florida where the suspect in the suspicious packages has been arrested. What we know about that man so far.
2 more packages discovered today in Northern California, one right here in the Bay Area. These suspicious packages with bombs in them. We're going to have more on who was targeted and also how investigators are handling the situation. We're live in Burlingame and Florida with the latest.
And a suspect under arrest. Police believe they do have the man behind a string of mail bomb threats in custody. We'll have a live report from Florida in just 2.5 minutes. Well, 2 more mail bombs were found today in Northern California, one here in the Bay Area. The first one sent to Sacramento, that was addressed to Senator Kamala Harris, and the second discovered on the peninsula at the Burlingame post office, and that one was addressed to billionaire Democratic donor Tom Steyer. Steyer has been behind, of course, a big push to have President Trump impeached. Today, police arrested a suspect they believe is responsible for sending all of the mail bombs.
Yeah, we're joined right now live by Natasha Chen. She is in South Florida, just north of Miami, where the suspect lives. Natasha, so many questions. What was he doing at that AutoZone? What was he in line trying to buy? Had he been sleeping in that white van in the parking lot? What do you know?
Well, granted, Catherine, we know that he was in that white van in this parking lot. Police had tracked him via cell phone, and of course they had zeroed in on him to begin with because they say his fingerprints were on one of the packages sent to Congresswoman Maxine Waters. So between that DNA and tracking his cell phone, they got him here in this parking lot, and they decided to do the arrest in a very public place to avoid the threat and risk of doing this in any sort of residence. Now, we do know that authorities also searched his mother's home in Aventura, not too far away from here. Just about an hour or so ago, the Aventura police chief said that the FBI had deemed that location safe. One lawyer who worked with Cesar Sayoc in the past said that that would probably be not very fruitful to search through that location because he says Sayoc had not been at his parents' place in about 3 years. So there's a lot that we're still piecing together, and as you said, those two new packages decidedly similar to the ones that we had seen thus far earlier this week. So just a warning from the FBI that there could be more of them out there, Catherine and Grant.
Natasha, we know he's being described as troubled. It might be putting it mildly, and he had a record. He was even in trouble at one point for making a bomb threat. What else do we know about his background?
Right, he was arrested at least 9 times, and what you're referring to is that he had threatened Florida Power Company in the past. He also was arrested for things like petty theft. He was in trouble for stealing copper from a Home Depot, for trying to steal clothes from a JCPenney. So there have been definitely run-ins. He has a record. And the lawyer that I mentioned who said that he hadn't been to his parents' place in 3 years, that same lawyer also said that he felt Sayoc was not really understanding, had a lack of understanding of reality, had trouble conforming. And of course, you might have seen the visual images of that white van that was parked here in the parking lot earlier today, and so you can see sort of his thinking perhaps a little bit in those stickers and that were plastered all over the van.
Yeah, those stickers very pro-Trump, very anti-Democrats, and we're looking at video next to you, Natasha, of that van being towed away. You get a sense this guy was known in that community? Was he sort of a loudmouth, always going off about hating Democrats? Were people surprised that the FBI has targeted him as the sender of those bombs?
What we do know about his politics is that he registered as a Republican, and he voted for the first time in 2016. So that's not that long ago. It's just from the last presidential campaign. And he did vote early in the primaries and the general election. So we do know that about his voting record. As far as his reputation in the community and whether people were surprised, we think that he may have had some issues with his family members who tried to actually get him to seek help at one point.
So, Natasha, it sounds like he did some, through political mouthing off with texting, but you're right, indications that he didn't really become obsessed until President Trump was in power.
Well, we know that his voting record didn't begin until that season, at least. We do know that his Twitter account was pretty active as well, his online social media accounts, and he tended to like to criticize members of the media. We also know that he had some of the faces of the people he was sending these packages to, pictures of them with crosshairs. So it's just very disturbing for anyone taking a look at the situation. And of course, we're still trying to piece together how much of this, how long has this been going on, just like you're wondering. All
right, Natasha Chen, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Natasha. Meanwhile, we are continuing to cover this story. We have team coverage tonight, and we're going to KRON4's Dan Kerman next. Is that, or Dan Thorne?
Yeah, Dan Thorne, apparently breaking news. He's live outside the Burlington Post Office where the latest mail bomb was found. Dan?
Catherine Grant, the sun is going down here on what was a pretty uncomfortable day for postal workers, and this is at the post office here on Rollins Road in Burlingame. The post office here was closed for much of the day today after that discovery of that suspicious package this morning. The workers here were forced to evacuate from the building and wait in the parking lot even after the package was removed. U.S. Postal Police inspectors and other investigators were here, including the San Francisco office of the FBI, having their explosive techs on scene after receiving those reports this morning. Their top priority today has been safety. As you mentioned, the package that was intercepted at the post office was addressed to billionaire and Democratic fundraiser Tom Steyer, who has been a harsh critic of President Trump. Steyer has even been going as far as calling for the president to be impeached. Well, Steyer was just asked if he blames the president for these suspicious packages. Here's what he told CNN.
Look, I don't think there's any direct link, but I think what he has done, I think what Mr. Trump has done is create an atmosphere that condones violence, that actually incites people's most emotional and violent feelings, and creates an atmosphere where people feel free to live out that kind of behavior and those kinds of feelings.
Steyer clearly not a fan of the political rhetoric that seems to be swirling around the country right now. However, he did thank the police officers and the post office for the great work that they did today. Now, I'm sure that investigators are going to be curious as to whether or not any more of these packages show up. We will be, of course, keeping you updated online and right here on KRON4. That's the latest here live in Burlingame. Dan Thorne, KRON4 News.